everyone, it is Holly and I am back with another video. And I have done a video like this before where I have talked about my first and favorite books by authors. Last time I talked about Brigid Kemmerer, Rebecca Genchak, and Julia Quinn, and today my original idea was for this to be romance authors, but I would not consider one of them a romance author necessarily. So romance and romance adjacent. So yes, but I have authors who I have especially read a lot of their books, and for something like this I do want to have read a decent amount of their books. Like I have really enjoyed Rebecca Ross, but at this point I've only read 3 books by her. Even Brigid Kemmerer, I feel like I was pushing it. Same with Stephanie Garber. I've really enjoyed what she's written, but I just feel like I haven't read enough. Also, like in that case, there hasn't been a lot for me to read, so that one is harder. There are also authors that I just can't tell you what my first book was. Like I would love to tell you my first versus favorite Lisa Kleypas, but I do not remember what my first Lisa was. So couldn't tell ya, unfortunately. The fact that I can remember my first Julia Quinn is kind of insane. Like, I did a whole video on how I can't remember books and what I read. So the fact that I can remember any of this is pretty amazing. First, we'll get into one of my favorite contemporary romance authors. And if you've been around here for any length of time, you probably know who I'm going to say, and that is Sarina Bowen, because I do in fact love her. I have read almost every single one of her books. Maybe there should be a goal in 2027 to read all of her books, to read the ones I have not read, which is not very many. And a couple of them are co-written, and I haven't read a YA by her. Although, will I then have to read the other thriller? I can do it. I can do it. Maybe I will remember this, and that could be a 2027 goal. Because I do always kind of think about doing it in the back of my mind, and I kind of work towards it. Like this year I did read a couple books that I had never read by her from her Gravity collection. So, you know. But anyways, so my first Sarina Bowen was The Year We Hid Away, which is actually the second book in her Ivy Years series. I am 95% sure I heard about this on the DBSA podcast. I do not know if that is still a functioning podcast. I barely listen to podcasts anymore. Basically, if I listen to a podcast, I listen to 2 podcasts. Maybe 3. I occasionally will watch on YouTube According To with Megan and Sierra. And then I'm not current, but I'm making my way through on YouTube the I'll Remember This podcast, which is Scott Kramer, who is one of my favorite YouTubers. And it's a podcast he has with his sister Laura and his brother Greg. And I love my family, and I like my extended family. I love my parents and all of that. But if I could be reborn as a Kramer, they just seem like the best people. And then I do listen to Back to the Bar with Kelly and Christy, which I am on a slight hiatus with because I am also doing a rewatch / watching for the first time episodes I never watched, because I did in fact stop watching after Christy and Kelly left the show, which is Dance Moms, by the way. You just know what Back to the Bar is. I mean, maybe you do. But this is a Christy and Kelly stan account. I don't hate on the other moms because I'm a rational human being. Did I kind of hate Melissa in my youth? And by youth, I mean early 20s, which is when that show came out for me. Yes. But I didn't hate Maddie and Mackenzie. Who hated Mackenzie? Nobody. And actually Mackenzie had a movie come out earlier this year I would like to see. Anyways, moving on. So yes, I don't really listen to podcasts anymore, so I have no idea if this is still around. But I believe that's where I heard about this. And I would often read my romance out of order because it doesn't really matter. They're gonna get together. It's not that big of a deal, right? And this seemed like something up my alley. This is a very serious and dark romance. It is college. It's new adult. Where this takes place, is it Harkness? Am I making that up? Is that a different school? Yes. Reminds me a lot of where I went to college. Bigger, definitely bigger, but very similar vibes to my alma mater. which was a very big hockey school. This is Hockey Romance. And this one, they both play hockey. Oh, talking about this makes me want to reread it. This is the problem. Like, I can like not read Serena because reading Serena makes me want to read Serena. And there's just too many books now for me to do that. This one is emotional for sure. So Scarlett is a hockey player, but she ends up leaving the hockey scene after her family gets caught up in some drama, mainly her father, who gets accused of some not appropriate behavior. And I believe he was also her coach, and he gets arrested. And so she's kind of trying to like have a new start now that she's at school, like in college, and she's kind of hiding because they're both kind of hiding because of that. And then Bridger, our hero in this story, is also hiding. He is dealing with I think his mom has a drug or alcohol problem. Like, I think she's working on getting sober, but like kind of keeps, you know, it's not a linear process. And he has a younger sister, and so he is constantly stepping in and trying to take care of his sister. And but he's also trying to play hockey, and so he's also like hiding, like trying to hide like his sister and all of this. And I don't remember how they end up coming together, but they do end up coming together. And it's just this very beautiful, angsty, raw, emotional romance. And I do believe I gave this 5 stars, and I do really enjoy it. And it obviously launched me into my love of Serena, but it is not my favorite Serena. In fact, my favorite Serena is Steadfast. This was actually very hard for me. Part of it is just because there's so many. And there are so many things that I love about, like, the Ivy Years, I absolutely adore. It is probably my favorite series by her. Just because there's so much in the True North series that it's like kind of hard for that to win out. Especially because in the Ivy Years, like the 15th minute is just so chef's kiss. And the Shameless Hour, also amazing. So, you know, but Steadfast is, I believe I can't remember if it's the second or the third book in the, book 2. And this one is signed and personalized to me. I bought this off of her website. Actually, I don't think I bought this one off of her website, did I? Oh, no, I did. Because it is signed and personalized. So, yes, I've read this with my eyeballs, and I've read it on audio, although I think she has changed the audio narration for this now. And this is set in Vermont, like a lot of her books. And it's kind of small town, and this one follows less of the main family that we are typically following in the True North books, whose name now escapes me. But this one we have Jude and Sophie, and it is a second chance romance. They were like high school sweethearts, and Jude got into some bad things. He had a drug issue, and then I think he might have like broken the law in other ways. Yeah, and he crashed his car, and it was like this big thing. And so now he is coming back to the town that they used to live in, and like her dad wants him to have nothing to do with her, and I think her dad is like not a good person. I can't fully remember. Oh yeah, he's the police chief. And this one again is super angsty. And I just remember, like, I could not stop reading this. This was one of those, like, up until, like, the sunrise reads. Like, I could not stop reading this book. I cared so much about these characters. And I don't know why. There is something about, like, this is going to sound really messed up, a drug addict story that really appeals to me. And, it's not something I have ever really had to deal with in my personal life. I have tangentially dealt with addicts, but not a lot. And I do enjoy in fiction kind of being able to explore worlds that, like, and people and character types that maybe you don't see all the time, and the humanity there. And similarly, that's kind of how I feel about cult stories, which she does write occasionally. Actually, there's a cult escape in this world as well, in one of the other books, book 3. But yes, so this is my favorite Serena. Next is the one that I wouldn't consider a romance author. Like, for me, this was like chick lit, but I don't know if that's still a thing. But I would not call it women's fiction necessarily. Maybe it is. I don't know. But anyways, and that is Sophie Kinsella. So this is my first Sophie Kinsella, Confessions of a Shopaholic. In fact, this is the book that I read. This physical one right here. This one, I read this in high school. And oh, I just got a big whiff of book. I think like my junior or senior year of high school is when I read this. And this book did have a profound impact on me. It obviously launched me into Sophie. And this was one of, actually, I think this is the first time that I had read something written in first person, and I understood why you would write something in first person. It was the first time I had ever read a book and I had felt like the main character, and not be in like a way where I felt seen or this character was like me, because Becky and I, we do have some things in common, but not really. But like I could feel, and like I was a high school student, like what did I have to like struggle with in life? Definitely not money or anything. So, but I could like feel her struggles and feel her like anxiety around her financial situation and everything. And while I do have anxiety, I did not really have anxiety back then. It's a whole thing. Oh yeah, the other book, in case you're wondering, where I viscerally remember feeling like first person made sense, because I am not a first person fan, was The Devil Wears Prada. So, which I believe I also read around the same time, maybe college and not high school. But again, where it was like, did not relate to me at all, but I felt like that main character. So yes, but not my favorite Sophie. This one was also a little hard because I was like, oh, it's been so long since I read a Sophie Kinsella. And I was like, I feel like I remember really liking a lot of these books, but so I was like, oh, would I have to reread? And maybe upon reread, my opinion on my favorite would change. But my favorite for now, if you said, Holly, you can only ever read one Sophie Kinsella book for the rest of your life, it's without a doubt this one. So I feel like that's the answer. And that is The Undomestic Goddess. I feel like I've talked about this book a decent amount on here. The main character in here, Samantha, I just really connected with her in a way. She makes a mistake at her job. She's a lawyer and she just runs away, which is not the rational choice to do. And she ends up at this house in the country, and they think that she's like their new housekeeper, but she has no idea what she's doing. But she has to like, she's like, well, I have to like stumble my way through this. And she does. And she makes friends, and there is a slight romance in here, just like Sophie's books normally have. I really enjoyed the romance in here. I think it's very cute. And I specifically really like the relationship between Samantha and the hero, like the romance between his mom and Samantha. She teaches her a lot about like housekeeping stuff, cooking, cleaning, like this book makes me want to make bread. I have never made bread, and why would I make bread? I am only one person. But this book makes me want to, and if I ever make bread, it will be because of this. So yes, if I could only read one Sophie Kinsella for the rest of my life, it would be The Undomestic Goddess. And then the last one, also kind of weird to put into this category because I would classify these authors, because it is a duo, as romance authors, but you'll see why it's a little weird. So we are going to talk about my girls, Krista and Becca Ritchie. Am I behind on their books? Yes. Have I had some disappointing Krista and Becca reads lately? Yeah, but I still love them, okay? And Lily and Lo still have my heart. My first Krista and Becca Ritchie book was in fact Addicted to You. I read this back in like forever ago, like 2016, 2017. How old is this book? This one is also from their website, personalized and signed by them. And this one was just normal because I do have some books from them where they do character notes. This one also first person and totally hits. This one, if you've not heard about it, I feel like this made its rounds on YouTube like in the late 2010s, like mid to late, and then I think it was relatively popular again on TikTok recently. I'm not on TikTok, so it's just what I hear through like YouTube and stuff. And I feel like I understand why this would be a TikTok hit. But this follows the first book in the series, and it follows Lily and Lo, or Lauren, and they are childhood best friends. They're both like obscenely wealthy. They come from very wealthy families, and he is an alcoholic and she is a sex addict, and they pretend to date so that they can hide their addictions from their families. And they end up, it slowly, as this book begins and progresses, becomes kind of a real relationship, and it is incredibly toxic and codependent, but the journey that Lily and Lo go on over the course of their books is so beautiful. They're still a little too codependent. As much as I love them and as much as I love their stories, this is not, nor any of their books, my favorite Krista and Becca. That is, should be a surprise to nobody, The Raging Ones. This book, this duology, I mean, this book I do like better than The Last Hope, just a little bit, is amazing and is criminally underrated. Like, I feel like nobody talks about this. It's disgusting to me that nobody talks about it. I absolutely love this story. What they did here, I feel like this is kind of like sci-fi, I guess. This takes place on another planet, and in this like world, basically, you are pricked with this little machine when you're born, and you are assigned a death day. That is the day that you are going to die. Like, this machine says you are going to die on this day. And then based on how long you're going to live, like 3 different time periods. So like if you're going to die before you're like 10, if you're going to live until you're in your 20s, or if you're going to live longer, like I think it's just 3, maybe there's 4 breakdowns. You basically get classified in society. And so if you are going to die like as a child, I think those are called like wonders, and you are given like the best of life because you are only going to be around for a short period of time. And then if you're going to live forever, those are usually like the very wealthy people. And then you have people, what are they called? What are you called, Franny? Fast tracker. And so like Franny, one of our characters in here, yes, my cat Franny is in fact named after Franny. She actually already had that name when I adopted her, and I just knew it was a sign that she was meant to be mine. And so she did in fact keep her name because of this Franny. This story follows 3 characters, and I do love them all, but Franny is really my girl. Anyways, so fast trackers kind of live into like their 20s, and they are a lot of times just like, they do the grunt work, and they typically just live to have basic pleasures. Like there's a lot of drugs, alcohol, sex, that kind of behavior. And what ends up happening is that these 3 characters, so Franny, Court, and Michael, they don't die on their death days. But everybody, you cannot escape death. You die on your death day. And they end up being able to like hear each other, like feel each other's like emotions and stuff. And like they don't know each other. Well, Court and Michael know each other when we meet them. But, and then they meet Franny and they're like, what the heck is going on here? And so they all are kind of like hiding, but they don't exist anymore because they're supposed to be dead. And the planet that they're on, so there's like other planets too, is going to start exploring. I don't remember why, but for whatever reason, there's like a space mission. And so they get into this like school competition to try to get on the spaceship because they want to get off this planet because they don't understand why they're not dead. And things go from there. It is amazing. I love the general plot, the intrigue, the mystery, that like sci-fi space elements, the like competition elements, the friendships in here, the romance in here. I do believe that initially they wanted this to be a like MMF or whatever, and I believe they were told they like couldn't do that because it's like YA. And can I say that I think that is the best thing that ever happened to this book, because I think that instead the relationships, both romantic and platonic, that we get out of this in The Last Hope are spectacular. And I think that they would not have been as good if Franny, Court, and Michael had gotten together as a trio. And it is just like, I just wish more people would read this. And I kind of wish Krista and Becca would write more books like this. Not like necessarily in this world or anything like that, but like there is something specifically magical about this duology that I don't understand. Like, no shade, I have enjoyed, for the most part, I have enjoyed everything that I have read by them. And this still feels like Krista and Becca, but there is just something here in this book, in these characters, that I think is amazing. I think this, honest to God, is their best work, and it saddens me that people have not read it. So yes, if I can convince one person to read that book, that series, I would be doing my duty. And hopefully you enjoy it. Hopefully I'm not alone. I don't think I am. But yes. So those are 3 authors who I really like, and talking about my first book by them and my favorite book by them. I will probably try to do this video again at some point. However, I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure that there are authors where I can confidently pick a favorite and confidently tell you my first book by them. So I don't know. We'll see. But I would like to. Maybe Lauren Rowe. I've read a decent amount by her, and it was relatively recent, so I remember my first one from her. So I don't know. This video was a lot longer than I thought it would be, so if you stuck around for the whole thing, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.